a brief about myself. I'm Sumit. I run a few communities such as PM Mixers and ACI. Anyone who can help me understand what is prompt engineering and why are we here? Anyone, just unmute yourself and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, hi, this is Matt and Bali. Can you hear me?
Yes, Matt, loud and clear. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So I do investing in real estate here, and also I give seminars to young folks to develop their career strategies. And I found that AI is a powerful tool to help me get to the next level. That's why I'm here to learn more.
So, why prompt engineering, right? It's probably one of the biggest questions today that a lot of people are asking. One of the challenges that a lot of people face is that they don't know what's a good prompt, what's a bad prompt. How do you really make sense of it, and why do we even need prompt engineering? So I would probably want to take a step back a little before I jump into really the designing of the prompt and ground us all around what is even the need of doing the prompt engineering, right? So um, it's essentially the art and science of crafting effective inputs for large language models. There is AI, and traditionally we've seen that. So if you are on a Grab or a Gojek or you are on a Booking.com and you're interacting with a particular product, it's a very machine to a man interaction. With AI coming in, we are now talking about a machine to a man interaction. We are now going into the realm which is completely different. UI for AI is very different than the traditional ways of doing UI. Now we are starting, and if you see Lovable, Cursor, Replit, Gamma, or any of those other AI platforms, they ask you to type in what do you want, and case in point here is Lovable. I hope you can see I just changed my tab. Are you able to see my screen? A Lovable one?
Yes,
Perfect.
yes.
Awesome. Thanks, Bhavya. So Lovable again asks you about ask Lovable to create a web app that or a portfolio or a prototype, right? How to type it in essentially and what to type it in is becoming the language of how you actually go and talk to these machines. And that conversation, expect it to be something like a Greek or a Russian or a Spanish or Urdu for that matter. If you don't know how to speak that language, you will not be able to talk to these machines. And if you're not able to talk to these machines, you will not be able to then make the most out of those environments that eventually may automate and build few things for you the way you really want to kind of use it. In case of Matt in real estate, you may want to take a photograph of a room and then generate a three-dimensional walk view, a video or a GIF out of that whole thing. I'm not talking about the cost part of it, but purely from an ideation standpoint, just taking a photograph and generating a 360-degree view and maybe even walking through it, or if you made a small video using your phone and you want to highlight a few things in your video, if you don't know how to talk to that model in which you are actually going to push in your video and ask it to improve, you will not get that result. And there is a reason why. LLMs or large language models essentially are predictive models. What I mean there is that these are mathematical models. At best, they can only predict the next token, so to say. Now, what's a token, you would ask? A token is anything which is an input and it's been de-chunked into smaller pieces. So if I say, hi, how are you? Hi, how are you? Along with that question mark are each respective tokens. Now, these LLM models have been trained on a lot of context and a lot of data. So when you talk to a machine and say, hey, how are you? There is a certain way in which it would reply to you. That's purely on the basis of how do they predict. Now you ask a hi, how are you again, and chances are that you may get a different response this time. And that's primarily because These LLMs are extremely probabilistic models. It's a mathematical model of saying, hey, what do you want to say? Now, if I ask this thing in the morning, hi, to a chat GPT, it may give me a good morning or it may give me, hi, how are you? How's the day looking like? Your day is packed, blah, 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 blah. If I talk to a chat GPT and say, hi, in the night at 12 midnight, maybe, or at 1 a.m., the responses that I would get is very different because now the machines are becoming slightly context aware. However, that's an input which goes into the context, and the output, which is the probabilistic model that's supposed to come out, is still probabilistic. We're still just putting a number and saying that okay, this is something which you may want to kind of go. So if you ask a very vague question, you'll probably get an extremely vague reply. Okay, which is where talking about prompt and how do you really talk to these machines become extremely important. Are we good till now, guys? Any questions on why are we doing what's with prompting, etc.? A quick show of hands would be nice. By the way, if you have any thoughts, if you want to stop me, we don't have many people right now, even though approximately 100 people registered for this, but I don't see many right now. So you can actually just, dial in, unmute yourself and ask. I do see a classroom from Rakshita. Hi, Rakshita. Looks like you have a lot of participants there. If you need me to stop and cover something, please let me know, and I'll be more than happy to just cover the topic again. Right. Moving on. Matt, you have a question?
Oh, no, sorry.
Okay, cool. Perfect. So moving on, right? How LLMs work, we just spoke about it. So there's an input text which goes into. You can also give some other types of inputs, which we'll not cover today, but you can actually code and send that whole code out. And then there are multimodals. You can send an image, you can send a video, you can send a lot of things. It basically breaks the whole thing down into a token and then it predicts and gives you an output. Now, why prompt engineering matters is because it helps you to get to the precision. So there are some slides, guys, by the way, not my typical way of doing it, but there are some slides I want to cover. Let get everybody else to a certain point, and then we jump into really seeing how these things happen in action. So just bear with me, don't drop off, tons to cover. Okay. So we have, it helps us in getting very precise the responses. So if you ask something, hey, what is this? You will only get that. If the question is vague, you get a vague response. If it's a pointed question, you get an extremely pointed response, which is where it actually helps you to be more efficient at your work, at whatever you are looking forward to do, even helps you save time and computational resource because everything that you do, if you say please tell me abcd thing, then please essentially is a useless thing. It's a useless token. You don't need please, thank you, etc. GPT is your assistant, and it is supposed to be doing exactly what you want it to do, and that's true for all of them, be it llama, grok, black box ai, kling, gpt, perplexity, claude, whatever. There are certain nuances around what kind of a response you'll get, and we'll see that very soon. We'll run same prompt on 2, 3 of these different platforms, and we'll then compare the responses, and then we'll talk about the versatility there. Reliability, again, if you ask a very pointed question, you get a very pointed reply, which is where it minimizes hallucination. Now, what is hallucination? Hallucination essentially is that fact that, okay, it may actually say a 2 plus 2 is equal to 4 or a 5, even though that particular realm does not really exist. It may cook up some stories which have been inputted or entered by somebody else as a very vague idea. But when you're talking to it, it may just kind of, pull in that one, connect the dots, and then say, hey, this is what's really happening there. So you really want to fact check everything that GPT is doing. It's a great starting point, but you don't want to trust GPT or Perplexity or Claude blindly. So be very, very thorough with what you're getting out of it, right? This is a slide, it's an important slide, but I'll not cover a lot of it right now. but I've kept it here because if you want to go back to this, you should be able to, go deep into all of these three, four things. There is something called as a temperature, top K, top P, and max tokens. Temperature essentially is which controls the randomness. If the temperature is high, then it's very creative. So if you are generating an image or you're generating a video, then it's a creative pursuit, the temperature would be very high. Uh, K and pop essentially is with similar, more focused, more diverse, predictable versus varied. So if it's more on the higher side, it's very creative. If you want more research oriented, then you typically control the temperature and K and P values to the lower end. And that's typically how you can actually do that. And I'll also show you can't really control this as a part of your prompt, by the way. I've just kept it here because I want it to be complete. You cannot, unless and until you are really calling a model from the API as a backend, and that's when you're defining these K value, P values, and temperature. More often than not, you may not have it, but there are ways in which you can control that. And we'll also see that when we go inside of the prompt. Um, Now, why one prompting doesn't fit all? It's because of, and the really the key here is in the training data. GPT has largely been trained on a lot of YouTube data, journals data, etc. Gemini has largely been research. Grok has been social media, and Llama has again been social media. So, depending on the kind of data these models have been trained, they kind of have a certain characteristic to itself, which is where if you want to do research, you typically want to go to Perplexity and Claude, maybe Gemini as well to some point. But if you want to talk about a William Wordsworth, River of Xanadu, and you want to really talk about some very English literature kind of stuff, you stick to ChatGPT. Really works very well. And you want to add some humor to this, go to Grok. Grok can really get you some very interesting Gen Z trends. So if you want to be somewhere around Gen Z and you want to sound nice, etc., go to Grok and talk to Grok and actually help you align to what the Gen Z trends are all about. More as we go along, there are also certain architectural differences which we'll not cover right now. The response styles is important. These models, purely because on the way the communication patterns have been, they kind of also give a certain kind of a response, which is where when you talk to a couple of people, you will say that, hey, I can figure out that this is a response which is given by ChatGPT versus this is a response that's given by Perplexity if you're writing a piece of literature, so to say. So that's really where it all kind of gets down. Coming down to really prompting technique, that's really, so I took about 20 minutes just grounding ourselves all over. This is really where prompting begins. Quick show of hands who've done and kind of understands, or rather, let me just flip it around. Is there anyone who, any of this zero shot, few shot, role prompt, system prompt seems extremely alien? They've never heard of it. How many people here? Just quick show of hands, please. Okay, so we have a decent uh, spread of people who do not know that. Brilliant. Now, this is really the crux of the event of the workshop today. I can guarantee you next 1 hour is going to really transform the way you use ChatGPT. And we also have Bhavya sitting in the house today. We'll call her in later. She's done some really cool stuff with all these promptings and more importantly, how. So we'll also go over that. Quickly, a zero shot prompt essentially, when you're talking to a GPT, let's say, Neil, I want to call you in, buddy, if you're okay to be in the hot seat.
Yes.
Perfect. I'm pulling in my GPT window. Okay.
Okay.
I want you to, it, do people want to kind of, make a nice startup today? Are we good? Do you want to launch something? Matt, Jidesh, Pankaj, Vijay, Aji, anyone, if you want to make some startups and we want to kind of, really go deep into that, folks sitting in that room with Rakshita's, all the students there, you want to show off hands? You want to build something? No? Yes? Okay, Rashi says hi. All right, let's do that. Neil, let's build something out. Very excited.
Sure.
Let's really go into that whole piece. So this is my GPT window now. What do you want to build?
Let's
And I want you
build
to tell me.
an app for helping gym people making people exercise based on their medical reports, recommending something like
Okay,
that.
okay. How do you want me to type it in?
Uh, so okay. Ideally, I would go for a individual basis where I upload a medical report and say, create a gym routine for me based on the above medical report.
Okay. Create a gym routine for me. Assuming I am obese and uh, I can barely run. Does that sound okay? Instead of having a medical report, we'll just do this here. Yeah,
Yes, sounds good. Mhm.
right. Uh, Folks who are following along, are you able to see my screen? Rashid, that's a good one. I want to build a program manager replacement that manages sprint. Perfect. We'll get to that in a bit. And that's maybe where we'll call in Bhavya as well. So yeah, okay. Let's see what this throws. So we have this one prompt which has been given to us. Create a gym routine for me, assuming I am obese and I can barely run. Here's a beginner gym routine tailored for someone who's currently obese, has limited cardio endurance, etc., etc., etc. Right, and now we have a routine overview, schedule, day one, mobility, goals, circuit, day two. Perfect. Now, this typically is a zero shot prompt wherein we just said, create me ABCD things, right? Now, going back to the sheet that I was sharing so that we can then refer it again. So we have a zero shot prompt wherein we directly jump into it without really giving much context to it. In this one, we did give some context saying that I'm obese and I can't run. That's the context. So you've got to create that, right? Then comes a few shot prompt or a single shot or a few shot prompt wherein we actually give an input and an output and there is a pattern to match around. So a typical input and output could be that input is cloud, output is sky. So now input is fish. What is the output going to be? This is a few short prompt wherein I am giving you an example that I want you to kind of play around with. And this example can be as long as a PDF sheet that you figured out to kind of even do that. And we'll get to the startup building in a bit again. Then we have something called as a role prompting, wherein we actually ask GPT to assume a role with the context. Now, act as an expert physicist explaining quantum mechanics to a high school student. Now, imagine for our use case, let me stop sharing and I'll go back to my GPT again. And this time I will improve the prompt a little. I'll go back to my prompt and I say, assuming you are an amazing uh, health specialist and a medical practitioner who specializes in weight loss program. Now create a routine, etc., etc. Let's see what it does this time. You see how different is the output this time? Just type in a yes or a Y in the chatbot so that I know you are paying attention, everyone.
Hey,
Yeah.
just a quick thought and question.
Yes,
I
Neil.
know this exercise is like completely focused on feature engineering, but is there any way that you would assess the quality of the output other than like just being subjective? Is
Yeah,
there,
yeah.
are there like objective ways to say, hey, this output is better than this output?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. There are. Hang on. There is a lot we'll cover. So all of your questions will be answered. Just hang on with me there. Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Cool. So here is purely on the basis of changing the narrative and adding a role. Now the output of the entire response is very different. We have a table, we have Monday cardio, etc., Tuesday, and why and stretch, etc., etc. It's a pretty detailed one, and actually, it's now asking you even to do that. In the previous one, if we just go up, we had some tips. Yeah, would you like me a printable, etc., and some tips. In the bottom one, it's actually asking you to just go ahead and build something out, right? This is where we're talking about a role-based prompting. Um, I'll go back to, actually, let me just share my whole screen. That would be better. Then I don't have to go back and forth. Okay. Then you have a systems prompting. Okay. System prompting essentially is saying that, okay, you are a helpful assistant and, you have more things. How do you want the system to essentially behave, and you want our system to kind of now let's say if you want to say um, i want I want you to now act as my gym buddy. Okay, whose only most important goal is that I lose weight and stay fit. Suggest me a workout plan. And there are other ways to kind of get that narrative baked in. uh, Sorry, my internet somehow is acting up a little. We had a massive sandstorm in Delhi today, and that kind of went on a toss. So you'll see how the agent essentially would do in, and there are more things. So this is not the only prompt that if I were doing a system prompt, then I would typically do that. There I would actually want to add a couple of more things. And those things essentially are wherein now we are talking about a chain of thought prompting, tree of thought prompting, reason and act, which is also called as the react prompting, and a step back prompting. Guys, are we able to follow along? A yes or a no in the chat would be very, very helpful for me to know if this is seemingly okay. Okay, perfect. I do see some yeses, so I'll tag along. Now, what is a chain of thought prompting? A chain of thought prompting essentially talks about think step by step, okay, through complex problems, making each reasoning step explicit. And that dramatically improves the logic and reasoning task. Okay. I'll just quickly go back here. I will copy my assistant one. And now I will say, I want you to act as a gym buddy who's now not only most important, give me a step by step plan. Also, the reasoning for why you're suggesting this plan. I want, and this is where I'm now introducing a goal in my, I want to lose 5 kgs in next 3 months. What's even more interesting that I'm going to do this time is this one very important thing that I can now add it. Ask me anything before you begin if you feel that you don't have complete information. Just adding this one line by saying that ask me anything before you begin. Santosh, I'll cover that few short and system prompting. Just bear with me. I'll tell you. Just adding this one thing that I have given a goal. I want to lose 5 kgs in next 3 months. And now saying, ask me anything before you begin if you feel. Even before kind of, get into answering it, it starts me with a question. The reason why this essentially gets here is that because there is a certain format, there is a certain way in which prompts should ideally be structured. And one of the ways in which you can kind of do that is by defining the role, the task, the context, and the goal that you want. So now it's actually asking me the context and a few more questions about myself. So let's start to answer one by one. Okay, age, height, and current weight. So age is 45, height is 5.7, current weight is 90. Any joint pains? Some pain in the knees. Now, if you notice, I am actually answering it one line by another. If I don't reply this by one line after another and I just type it all in one go, GPT often takes that whole thing as a chunk. LLMs understand this whole thing as a chunk, and then it would want to understand and find answers for all of these questions in one go by breaking out and trying to figure out while using our NLP models. But by purely by adding a return or by entering the responses in a second line, it kind of automatically aligns these each question to each of those, and then the processing time is reduced significantly, and it understands it a lot better. Have you taken any medications? No meds. Have you done any kind of workout before? Yes, but um, not been working out for last 1 year. Okay, just to add some drama here. What kind of gym equipments you have access to? Nothing. How many days can you commit? 2. Do you prefer short, intense, long, moderate? Short and moderate. Let's try and hack GPT this time. So instead of going through all the responses that it's giving me, I'm now giving him a completely different response that I want to do. So I want short and moderate responses. And now let's see. So I've given him all the questions that are being answered. And now it's kind of, trying to figure out some bits here. And it's acting up a little. Sorry about that. Guys, is my speed okay? Again, checking in with everyone. Are you following along? Perfect. So now we have profile, summarize, workout history, goal, etc., and it kind of gives me a complete breakdown, which seems a lot more doable, maybe. Now the question that Neil you had, that how good, bad, ugly is this, right? There is one very interesting thing that you can probably add to the prompt, and I'll probably go back to my prompt here again. Or I will just edit this one here. Now in this prompt, I will say, play a devil's advocate and double check on the plan, on the proposed plan. Iterate, or you can say double check on the proposed plan, fix it, and do this twice to come up with an absolute foolproof plan, workout plan. Now, what's happening here is one, I'm asking him to kind of act like a gym buddy, which and give him the goal. Then I kind of gave it my goal of what my goal essentially is. It's supposed to act as a gym assistant. Ask me anything that you have, and now whatever plan you come up with, you act as a devil's advocate, double check on the proposed plan, fix it. Now I'm adding all of this in one. I'm not asking it to propose and then fix it in a separate line. This is all going in single line. Propose plan, fix it, and do this twice to come up with an absolute foolproof plan. If you want, give me version 1 of improvement and also version 2 for me to know what you improved. Now it's kind of asking the same thing again. Let me see if I have that from the previous one. Oh, it's kind of gone back. Let me just quickly answer it. 45, 5.7, 90, knee pain, no gym or equipment. How many days to track your food? Fat loss, are you willing to? No food tracking. Too boring. Any workouts? Lower height. Can run a little. Used to. Not anymore. Yeah. Here's a default, etc. It's kind of giving me a default plan. In which case, if you now notice, it came up with the first one, which is here, lose 5 kgs in 3 months, zero point 0.4 kgs per month, plan philosophy, default plan, daily workout, food matters. Now, devil's advocate check number one, version 1.0 plan improvement, flaws in version point. No focus enough on habit, no check on mobility, too even across days. Now, version plan with first improvement is this particular plan. Then version 2, again it kind of went back into the first plan, figured out what's kind of missing there, and then it came along. Now this is again does not have my inputs, so I give my inputs here. Now this will do the same thing over. It'll actually now go into putting together what the plan is, play a devil's advocate, improve it, fix it, etc., etc., all of that. Does this make sense, Neil? Now, is it
It
clear on
does.
how we can actually do this, right? Just
Yes.
adding a prompt, just saying that play a devil's advocate to find faults and any blind gaps you can. That's an even better. In case if you're doing research around it, then you should totally say find out any blind gaps. Or if you are doing any marketing plan, if you're doing any market research around any idea, or if you're putting together a roadmap for something that you want to kind of achieve to, who playing a devil's advocate to find gaps, fix it, give me two versions, go back again and reiterate before you come up with a final thing is a very, very important prompt that you can actually add, just adding this line, which suddenly elevates the entire thing to another level. Let's go back and see what it has now done for us. So we have workout B, glutes and core, devil's advocate, low stress, lower fat loss system, new strategy, and then come down again. And then we have the final proof version. And kind of, want me to win the final proof version is version 2.0, which is essentially someone here. Yeah. So version 2.0 is what it's kind of asking me now. It's kind of playing around with it. We had a question which is few short and system prompt. Santosh, in a few short prompt, I would typically play around with saying that, hey, this is how I want my responses to come along, and this is an example. For example, if I go into a new chat and I say, um, what do you want to do, Santosh? What's kind of bothering you right now? Your thoughts, or anyone, and anything that's kind of on your mind right now that you want answers for.
Actually, I'm
Right? Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
I'm Santosh's daughter, and he couldn't
Hi.
attend, so I'm attending on his behalf. Like, could you take the example? I'm trying to develop a novel based on one core idea.
Okay, I want to develop a novel on one core idea. Is that the right thing?
No, like I have an idea and I want to develop a novel on it. Like
Okay, you have a
a
novel. Okay,
mystery thriller that involves erasure of memory.
mystery thriller. Okay, let's. I don't want to uh, take your idea, so to say. So let's just go with. I want to develop a novel on a mystery thriller, right? A few short prompt could be here. Can you give me some names of famous mystery authors?
Agatha Christie, maybe.
Okay. Um, take inspiration from Agatha Christie. Is the spelling correct? I don't know. I don't even know
I.E.
what the
I.E. Christie.
I Christie for the mystery thriller novels. Use the template, the build up, the plot, and anything else that would help me get to my goal. And then you basically come down and say, I want to develop a mystery novel. Now, this is an inspiration. This is a few short prompt. It's actually it's not even a single short prompt. It's a few short prompt, and if you just kind of add a couple of more things in terms of formatting, etc. What you can do, and this is really where chain of thought and tree of thought prompting can really come along, and I'll show you that. So here we've kind of taken the mystery genre, the dynamics, etc. We come down and we talk about what that whole thing is, how the investigation comes along, which is active 50%, the reveal 25%, and that's just essentially the technique. So it's kind of, and you didn't really ask to break it down in terms of what the format is. I just asked to use the template. Now it use that pattern, whichever pattern you're referring to, and you use that pattern and eventually come down and ask the same pattern to be repeated. If there are more than one mystery novels or more than one authors, so if what we've just said for Agatha Christie, you can say that for somebody else as well and take inspiration from this user template. Also, take another inspiration from user and develop. So you will see a very interesting pattern that you eventually get down to. That's really what this few short prompt essentially is. This is particularly very helpful when you're developing your own brand guidelines. And maybe I'll show it to you here. Let's say we have Coke can, all right? And there are two examples here. One is this. I'll copy this image. I'll go to my chat. So this is an example of a few, it's a multimodal few shot prompting. Why multimodal? Because now I'm actually going to talk about not just my words, but also giving it input as an image. So I've sent two images and say, taking inspiration from these two images, create me a new brand guideline for my uh, new energy drink, new energy vegan drink uh, that I want to serve instead of Coke. Random idea. I don't even know if they would exist, but let's see. And I'm talking about a brand guideline point to be noted. I am not talking about creating an image. Creating an image would give me a very interesting output again, and I'll just show you that. For now, we're just talking about these two images and taking inspiration, and we're just talking about the brand guideline. So we have a brand name, Viva, which is Viva and vegan, a brand essence, visual identity, and it kind of gave me something. Now, instead of this, if I just go back and create me a new creative. Let's see how it understands a creative. It's kind of getting started. My understanding is that it should ideally give us an image because we've given this as an image, the two images as the input. But it's quite possible that as a creative, it might just give me a song or it might just give me a video or something like that. Here, I think it's giving me an image, which is saying creating an image purely because my input was an image. If I would give my input as something else, then I'd typically, get a very, very different response. So while it kind of, gets there, I will want to come back to on a couple of more ways of prompting. A chain of thought prompting is very interesting, which is where we can actually then go. If you want to learn something, if you want to do some planning, chain of thought prompting is really very exciting. Um, then we have tree of thought prompting. Tree of thought essentially is that you think of something with multiple nodes and you don't know which way to go to. So you kind of want to figure out all the different ways of doing it and then coming up with the best. Um, one example of doing a key of thought prompting essentially is, for example, you are a product manager with three candidate features: user onboarding, real-time notification, etc. Use tree of thought prompting. K3 essentially is a number of variations that you need. D is equal to 2 is pros and cons and how many of you want, and reach each of them on a scale of 1 to 5 and choose the top priority. This is a typical response of a tree of thought prompting that you would get. Thought 1 gets an onboarding wizard. Pros and cons: reduce churn for new user. Cons is something else. Now we asked for rate each user on user impact, development effort, and revenue potential. So it's actually rating the entire each of these thoughts on user impact, development efforts, and revenue potential, and doing the same thing over and over again. You can increase the K value to have more number of options, 3, 4, 5. You can be more creative, go all the way to 10. It won't really add much value there. Pros and cons, D is equal to 2 can then be added to a lipid scale of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, good, bad, ugly, 3. A lot of those tree of thoughts can be done. By the way, this is inspired by the two inputs, and here we have an energy drink, which is actually a few short prompt example of creating an image given what we kind of gave as an input. And here if you see, we gave them a vegan drink, so it's actually picked up vegan and green, and it kind of understands a few of these aspects. Guys, are we good till now? Are we following along? Any thoughts? Just quick show of hands or just type in a yes. Perfect. So we're good with chain of thought prompting, and chain of thought prompting in case of my the gym that we were doing. Okay, let's just go back to here. Um, Using chain of thought prompting or chain of thought process or chain of thought just like that. Give me a step-by-step workout plan to reduce 5 kgs. Now here I'm asking to reduce 5 kgs. It's even fascinating if I say, give me a step-by-step plan, or using chain of thought, give me a step-by-step thing to learn something. And that's really where you can really, Vijay, I'm just demonstrating these in front of you. So the question is, GPT really understands these prompting patterns and you can actually use these prompts. So even if you don't say anything and say that I just want chain of thought prompt, GPT really understands. And this is true for all. GPT, Grok, Llama, Claude, Perplexity, they all kind of, understand that. This is particularly very helpful if you are doing a research and if you want to learn something. For example, while it kind of, continues to do that, um, anything you want to learn. Santosh, I want to come back to you again. I know your daughter. I didn't catch your name, by the way. I'm sorry. Um,
Brinda.
what do you want to? I'm sorry,
Brinda.
Vrinda. Vrinda, what do you want to learn?
Learning maybe about how to create abstract paintings.
Okay, I want to create abstract paintings. Teach me step by step to become an expert in painting one in next 30 minutes. Now, do you think it's a good prompt or a bad prompt? Yes. Anyone, unmute yourself and share it. Do you think it's a good prompt? Bad prompt? You want to improve this? Anyone who wants to take a stab at improving this? I'll just type it in.
I have some concerns about the time. In next 30
Okay.
minutes, do we want the 30 minutes to be my steps, like the steps that are given? Can I perform those steps in 30 minutes and become an expert? Or the text or the steps are going to be that long that it will take me 30 minutes to understand and practice maybe? The
We'll
time
just see.
thing is
We'll just
very ambiguous.
cool. We'll just see to that. Um, Anyone else who wants to kind of give? Bhupesh is saying personality type. We can totally give a personality. Yes. Matt, you have a hand up, and Pankaj.
Yeah, we mentioned abstract, and I'm sure there's many abstract painters. So we may want to um, mention which or who,
Okay.
what abstract painter we would like to be taught
Perfect.
from.
So I want to create
Based
such as are inspired by. Vrinda, you want to give a name of an abstract painter?
I don't know many.
Okay, Picasso, for example. Okay, inspired by Picasso. Teach me step by step, and
couldn't
what
we ask
Bhupesh mentioned, right?
ChatGPT to teach us about some abstract painters?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We can even ask it, and that's really where the fun gets really fascinating. Now, this is a prompt. Okay, uh, one of my favorite ways of doing prompt engineering is, and instead of kind of starting here, assuming you're a teacher,
More like giving
and
it
I
a
will
role.
ask. I'm now giving it a role. I have a goal, and I will now challenge GPT as a prompt expert. Improve this prompt for me. Now, this is one role that if you start to play around with ChatGPT and ask it to improve as a prompt expert, you will see that the whole prompt itself will start to change. Assuming the role of an experienced art teacher specializing in abstract and cubist style, I want to create an abstract painting inspired by Pablo Picasso, especially his cubist face. So what we wanted to start off as saying, I want to create abstract painting is now this. You can go even further. And by the way, and this is really where I want to talk about the temperature and the K values and the P values. GPT or any of these LLM models today, they they perform the best if you challenge them. Okay. And that's really where the temperature and the K value comes along. If you challenge them saying that, hey, I didn't like this, this is trash, you can do better. I thought you could do better. Now, the idea here is that all of these models essentially they exist in a certain energy state, just like humans. Imagine if you have a breakup or if you got proposed by your girlfriend or a boyfriend today. In either of the two cases, your energy levels are not in the normal ranges. You're either too happy or you're too sad. In both of these scenarios, if I ask you to take a decision, chances are that you would end up taking a decision which is probably not either rational or you do not have the complete information or it was two-sided, something like that. Exactly the same thing happens with these LLMs as well, and you can excite these models to act and behave the way you want. And that's done by giving certain adjectives. Now, I'll just kind of, challenge GPT here, saying, um, I thought you could do better than this. This is not what I wanted. Give me a kick-ass prompt to make the best abstract painting ever. Now I challenged and then I said, give me a kick-ass prompt. It kind of understands these narratives, the Gen Zs and other lingos. It really gets that. Now it will give you a prompt which is even. So you see, you want a power charge creative Picasso on steroid level prompt. Now this is the prompt. Act as a rebellious, world-renowned abstract art mentor, channeling the spirit of Picasso at its most radical. Drawing from cubism, surrealism, no fluff, no fear, just pure creative ignition. Now, when you do this, it takes you to a completely different level. And I want to give you a demonstration here. Just bear with me on how we can do that. Please, if you guys want to follow along, go to designer.microsoft.com. Beautiful tool, free completely. You can actually play around. Now, here are some, let's say, an image. Now, here's an image. It's an amazing, beautiful looking image with a kid sitting in, right? So this is, let me just edit the entire prompt. And please play around. And this is the prompt that I'm just copying here, right? Now, the ways you can actually change this prompt essentially is, there are a lot of ways in which you can change it. Let me just see how it goes. Let me refresh this one. You can change biracial toddler, wavy hair in a 35 photorealistic style, a middle-aged African American mother. So I can change it to an Indian mother or an Indian girl or a dog. For all you care, sitting cross-legged on the floor or sitting on a stool, wearing a yellow hoodie or a white hoodie with some brand on top of it. And then when you actually do this, you will actually get to see that and this will actually work pretty nicely in ChatGPT as well. So let me just go to ChatGPT, for example, and just make it here, create an image, and I'll just give it here. Yeah. And then we'll change a few things. I would really urge you to play along with this one, wherein you can actually change all of these. So what do you want? Where is it sitting? What kind of a light? Uh, what's the background? Faded or not faded? What kind of a, paint, warm, glow, etc. You can really do some very, very creative stuff just by changing a few of these things. So here is this one image that is just generated from the same prompt, by the way. It's the same prompt that we did in the previous one, and now we're kind of using it here. So going back to to this one, for example, now I will say act as a rebellious, etc., etc., and now saying create an image, and let me just copy this one here, and I'll change a few things in this. Now I'm saying create a biracial toddler, a dog with wavy hair styling and sitting on a stool. Middle-aged African mother is sitting cross-legged on the floor, wearing a warm green cardigan, a yellow shirt, a white hoodie with a Harvard brand logo. The mother is holding a children's book, holding a guitar in her hand in front of the dog, who's looking inquisitive at the book. Surrounding the people is simple. And I would say the background has a lot of candles and warm, fuzzy feeling. Let's see what it does. I don't know what it'll actually create. I'm just throwing out loud. I'm doing this experiment as we speak in front of all of you. Uh, let's see what it does. It's supposed to kind of give something in a Picasso style, which is very radical, cubism, surrealism, and raw human emotion. While it creates, guys, any thoughts till now? Are we following along? Are you liking it, not liking it?
So, one thought, Sumit.
Yes,
From if I have to summarize, like prompt engineering or like the art of engineering itself, art of prompting, that is, it feels like the more information you give, the better the quality of your output is. So, in terms of asking it to assume a role, asking it to assume a tone, giving more information about what you're looking for, maybe giving a little bit information about yourself, and maybe a ton
yeah,
of other things. But at what point does it feel like maybe over engineering, like similar to like even in like ML and stuff, we would say it's like overfitting.
correct,
So
correct.
at some point it'll feel like there's too much information that might confuse it versus it's just the right amount of information. So where do we draw the line?
So a lot depends on your context. Vijay, it's a great question. Thanks for asking. Um, it when you're starting off with something, for example, if you want to do a research, for example, the gym one, right? If you have to do
Mm.
the research around the gym one, then you would probably want to give some information, tree of thought may not be the right thing at this point of chain of thought probably is the right thing. So having step by step, or how would you go about it, or so it's kind of created something here which is a very Picasso kind of a thing. I did ask it to be a dog with a wavy thing, but somewhere it kind of went into a Picasso, and so it did not really create that whole thing. Somewhere it kind of changed. But coming back to the gym one, for example, now we have a gym here, right? um, Act as the best market researcher using chain of thought. Tell me if this is an idea worth following. Do deep research before answering me. And here we have a deep research toggle as well. So if you turn this on, it'll actually go into the research mode and then come back to you with doing a lot of things, which would probably take like 4 or 5 minutes to even do the research. We'll not go there. We'll just quickly do this here. Now, act as the best research is kind of in a given chain of thought. Now my goal is to launch this startup tonight and make an app using. Now, here is where I'm actually introducing a lovable as well, and there's a reason why I'm doing it. I would eventually want to take a prompt and then go to lovable. Typically, when you do prompt engineering and people go to lovable cursor, are people aware of it? Has anyone not heard of lovable cursor, these names? Just quick show of hands so that I know uh, the awareness. Okay, not heard. Um, okay, perfect. Are there more people who've not heard? Okay, Matt as well. Perfect. Okay, sounds good. So you've heard of this term called vibe coding, okay? Which is essentially a way of saying that, hey, I can take help of AI and actually build these apps for myself. So following Neil's advice and following Neil's the lead, what we will now do this is okay, perfect. I'm now stepping. So here's kind of going into let's get it right. First, evaluate this idea. I need to know what that idea is. What is your startup idea? And I will give you okay. My idea is to create a gym app to help me reduce weight. A gym workout. Yeah. Again, we did not specify that. It just asked us what that idea is. I did not go ahead and answer a lot of other pieces like who is it, who's the target audience, etc., etc. Now, this is where if you don't know which way you would want to go ahead with, tree of thought is a brilliant way to kind of say that, okay, I want to make this app. Use a tree of thought reasoning and tell me what should be even the best persona or my user segment to go after for, or which market should I go after for, and then tell me which one do I go for. It'll actually tell you two, three different ways of how the market is going to really, change and react, and then kind of, do that. So this is kind of, talking about all of this. Some evaluate the MVP funnel, MVP concept, 2 day, a week, fat loss coach, something, da 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 da, player devil's advocate, and a market research version 1 and 2. Because previously we had done that, so now it's automatically giving us version 1 and 2. It has a memory, and using that memory, what could be a real startup conclusion? Is it worth launching? Yes, if you found the refined angle, build a hyper personalized weight loss app that can help and don't track food. This is great. So now what we do is great. What to build tonight in Lovable? Because I said I want to build it tonight. I want to launch that startup. It's kind of taken that whole thing again and said app name, light burn, MVP features, what that should be, final tip, etc., etc. Now we go to Lovable. Lovable essentially is this app which lets you to make these apps, websites, etc., by using cursor. So this is really where you come and do your prompting. One way to do this prompt is I have this one, which is also a prompt, build a hyper personalized weight loss app for people who can't run. And I'll just go ahead and paste it out here. This is one way of doing it. And this is 90% of the times, this is typically how people start making their application. So if folks who have not been um doing coding, and folks who do not know how to code but want to, anyone, so quick show of hands who do not know how to code here. And I'm assuming that you still want to make applications and make apps because everybody is talking about it. So AI. Lovable is the tool which essentially can get you to make these apps for yourself. So only on this one thing, build a hyper personalized 2x app. It's kind of, spinning up a preview, talking about the first version, focusing on personalized onboarding, 2x weekly check-in, non-gym movement, mindful habit progress, blah, 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 blah. And it's actually writing the code. You can actually go and see this is the code. It's actually doing it for you. So you don't really have to do the code. In case if your mind is blown, you can actually, type why yes or something, heart or fire or whatever. At least I'll get to know if this workshop today is helpful to all of you and if you learned something new. So this is actually the code that's actually writing. It's very powerful, and there are a couple of these tools. There are tools like Bolt, V0, Cursor, Lovable, um, and there are a couple of more. I'm forgetting those names, but these are some of the known ones. And there is also Black Box. There is also GenSpark. AI is moving at a speed which is unprecedented. So you can actually use any of these tools. Some pros and cons of using one over another. I like Lovable purely for the design side of it. And I'll just quickly show it to you now. It's supposed to be spinning this anytime now. Just wait for a minute. And there you go. You have the preview of the app in front of you. This is your app, completely coded by AI, which is welcome to your wellness journey. And what should we call you? You call me Sumit, and we continue. What are your goals? Reduce stress, improve build confidence, increase mobility, and say continue. Can't run job, back problems limited. Da, da, da. Okay, mobility challenges, and continue. Gentle walking, continue. Monday evening and or Friday morning. 2 of 2 selected, and continue. Your personal why, want to get my hot bot back and start my journey. And here you have the entire journey in front of you. This is really what it is. And this, guys, let me go back and play around with it even more. So 10 journeys check in. Next day is your goal. Ready for a check in. I want to start check in. How do I want to feel right now? All of this is done as we spoke right now. Right? Uh, Awesome. Feeling right now totally on a high and complete check-in. And this is what it is. And you can actually add a lot of things to that. Which is where now comes the fun part. Okay. This is something which we've just done with one line. Remember? We went to Lovable and we said one line. This is what it did using just one line. Now we go back to ChatGPT and this becomes very interesting. Okay, now using free of thought style, give me a set of features that should go into this app. Now you'll see it actually start to spin off some systematic brainstorm, evaluate, and select for what should work, what should not work. And if you change it to a React, which is research and act, it will give you a very different response. If you go for a chain of thought, it will give you a very different response. So the three high-level thought trees: motivation, workout, progress, is now it's kind of giving branch one, branch two, branch three, branch four, workout and movement, something da 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 da. And I'll ask it to kind of combine all of this. Just bear with me. Okay, now convert. I don't want to do it. Um, Looks like you missed a lot. Let's do this again in a React style. Give me a comprehensive list of features that will make my app go viral. I also want a community inside the app for people to inspire each other. Make it the best. Act like a $10,000 McKinsey consultant to consult my startup. Now, purely because I just challenged this to be Rinda, you just saw the difference between tree of thought, which kind of gave me three different versions, and it kind of went into all three of them and asked me to pick one. A chain of thought is a more step by step, in which case I'll actually go from motivation to the other one. So in case if you're going here, for example, tree of thought works in branches. It's more like a nodal route. So you pick one branch, go the whole end, you come back, you go through the whole branch and kind of follow along, and then you pick one branch out of it which seems to be the best on the basis of some criteria. I did not define the criteria here, but you should totally defining a few criteria that in how to even evaluate these options. In a chain of thought, it'll actually make this app in a step by step. So you'll actually ask it a chain of thought, like what do you want, which market, which kind of a user, who's your target user, etc. What features do you want, so on and so forth. Right now here,
So which one will be useful when I'm just going in blind and I don't exactly know what I don't exactly know what data
always
I have to give.
always go with chain of thought. Or in case if you have some inspirations, the way we did for Coke, if you have a certain ideas already, you define it saying that take inspiration from ABC or evaluate ABC, act as a marketing consultant or a research consultant who understands that market better. So you've given that comparison. Now act ABCD and then give me two, three things to achieve a goal. So your prompts always work when you have a role, you have a context, and you have an objective and a purpose that you want to eventually achieve. So now it's acting it like channeling my 100K McKinsey caliber market strategy analyst, elite product advisor, viral weight loss app. And now it's giving me part one, part two, part three, etc., etc. Now it's all the features, right? These are all the features. I haven't said anything of making an app. Now I'm jumping into a single shot prompt. Now, when I'm going to Lovable, I will not go with a few shot or otherwise. Now I would ask, give me be the best prompter ever. Give me a single shot prompt to make this app in lovable. I'll not go deep devil's advocate and then improve it, etc., because we're kind of running out of time. So I'll just quickly do this. Sorry.
Like, say you're an impatient person and you've given so many prompts and it's giving such big results and you don't really want to go through all of it, then how should you?
Summarize. Summarize. Ask it to summarize it to you for in 5 steps or 5 bullet points. And that's really where the few shot prompt or chain of thought again comes in. So summarize the entire discussion in 5 bullet points in a step-by-step manner so that I'm updated in 1 minute. So
Understood.
purely by saying, just giving your goal is very important. Right? Now here is the prompt. Now this is a prompt, guys. This is the prompt. It is actually asking us to go into lovable. This is not, this is the whole thing. So our definition of prompt oftentimes is just 3 lines, 4 lines. But here, this is a single short prompt that I would actually go back into lovable and I will probably do it again. Now here I have copied the entire prompt and now you will see what it'll actually make is going to be something very, very different from what it initially generated. So while all of this happens, I have a few more slides to cover. I'll quickly go back. So we've seen chain of thought prompting, which is talking about 3 thoughts, and then we kind of move around. We also have code prompting techniques, which I'll probably not cover today because it's very software oriented. But you can actually give prompts of JavaScript, Python functions, give it a role of a coder, and really ask it to come up with some very interesting, comprehensive, commenting on your code, or you want to normalize your code for better security. You can totally do all of that. Uh, Between 3, 4 of these, and we spoke about it very briefly in the beginning, we have ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, and Grok as some of the top 4 LLMs, so to say, while there are others as well. Now, these 4 have a very different style or way of getting used. If you want to use just as a writing assistant, code generation, ChatGPT is a pretty brilliant one. But if you want some legal document analysis, some content summarization, ethical discussions, always go with Claude. Claude does it so well. It's unbelievable, right? It's absolutely like insane. However, if you want to go for research, Perplexity is your go-to place. You want to do academic projects, you want to do some fact checking, trend monitoring. You don't want to kind of spill on that. Perplexity is your thing. And if you want to do more creative stuff, meme creation, trend analysis, casual brainstorming, Grok is your thing. Well, what I typically do is I start my research in Perplexity, and I would probably want to take a few aspirations. Go to ChatGPT, improve it. Go to Croak, and then make it Gen Z. And that's really where a lot of those very interesting piece comes in. This one slide which talks about what kind of prompting techniques would work in what kind of a scenario. So in healthcare, you have a role in a few shots. So you give a role of a doctor or a pharmacist, physicist, etc. Not a physicist, physician, and a few shots. So that's healthcare. In finance, system and 0 shot. Few shots, step back. So again, I'll give you this doc. No need to worry about it. I just want to kind of cover a few things. Uh, Prompt engineering best practices, of course, is okay. Looks like our uh, lovable has generated thing. All right, so we have our prototype here, and I'll just quickly type it in. Jitesh asked, share. Yes, Jitesh, I'll be sending you a prompt library. If you could just stay back, I really want to bring in Bhavya in just 5 minutes, and I would really want her to show how she kind of plays around with it. Just bear with me. This is the new one that we have, and we can what's your main goal? Reduce joint, continue, tiredness, move price. You see the design of this app versus the design of this one is so different this time. This is so more Gen Z. And by the way, these designs are actually responsive. You can actually move this around. You also have a move, you have a village, which is your community. You can actually follow along your progress, and everything is purely on the basis of how you have prompted it. So this is the difference between, now you can clearly see the difference between a one line prompt versus when we gave a huge ass prompt with everything inside, which is this one, and we asked it to really spin off something so cool. Um, the trick here is that after doing a chain of thought prompting or otherwise, you should ask GPT to come and give you a single short prompt that you want to then start prototyping in Lovable. And that's really where the magic will start to happen. So you will actually be able to reduce a lot of it. All right. Going back to the deck, some prompt engineering best practices. Be very, very clear. Structure your prompts, use sections, numbering, clear formatting, include examples, and iterate and refine. Some cheat sheet kind of, for your prompts. For creative work, go to GPT. Deep analysis, go to Claude. Factual research, go to Perplexity. Some casual exploration, go to Grok. And then use a structured roles. For Claude, you want to be kind of polite. You don't want to excite Claude because then it'll not be able to do that deep analysis. For Perplexity, you want to frame your queries nicely in terms of what kind of a research you want, and then kind of iterate and then reiterate on top of it. A few pitfalls you want to kind of take care of is don't repeat a lot of it in the same prompt. You want to reduce it, which is where just calling out GPT or anything to say that as a prompt engineer or as an expert prompter, improve this prompt, and it'll actually give you a very nice prompt. Don't be vague. Be specific in terms of how do you want to write a blog. You want to write a blog under 100 words, 200 words, keeping a tone very casual or very engineering led, or as a CXO or as a teacher or whoever you want to do. Um, Ask it to recheck and double check for fact checks, because that's where hallucination can be minimized. And if you break it down into smaller chunks, it kind of that's really where the whole chunking system goes along, and the performance of the system gets a little better. I got it. Thank you so much.